Hello, I'm the Bunnyman.
And I'm Crazy Susie.
And we are the Eyes of Terror. And today's sort of a freeform talk.
Yeah, we wanted to talk to you guys about our views on haunted houses.
Or I think we're going to do this once a month. And it's just going to be over random different topics. It's not going to be non-scripted. It's just us with one topic and then...
Well, it is going to be non-scripted.
Yeah. And probably minimally edited. So
the Bunnyman had this really not so great idea. And I was completely opposed to it, but he kind of pushed me into it anyway. He wanted to go through and make an itemized list of every single haunted house in the United States. I felt it was a very bad idea because I thought the list would be astronomical for one, and it was. And it required a ton of research on our half, but we wanted to make sure that that information was available to you guys. And yeah, after working on this for about 4 days, we gave up.
I got to New York. And you were in California.
The only state I managed to get halfway through was California.
I guess I really didn't realize how many haunted houses there are in the United States. And I know that sort of sounds sort of stupid, to think about it, but haunted houses really blown up in the past couple of years. I mean, just extremely blown up, as in attractions. I remember there always being sort of, like, when we were younger, at least where I lived at, there wasn't an actual haunted house in my hometown, so we had to go somewhere else. That's like half an hour drive to go to this other this haunted maze, type thing. So I guess I just didn't realize how big it's gotten because there's so many. I mean, even our little small rinky-dink town, there's at least 3? I mean...
Yeah, there's 3 to 4, and we don't live in a very big area. I mean, and there's a haunted corn maze near us, so even just that and recording what city it's in, how much the tickets are, that takes time. So, if you want to go to a haunted house or see what haunted type events are in your area, just Google it.
Yeah, really what the way that we sort of did it, or at least I sort of did it, was I just put in a state. I put in, let's say, Maine. Maine, I think, has the least haunted houses in the country.
Maine is not up for the Halloweening unless, they probably only have haunted houses that are in people's houses, so they're not commercial type haunted houses, or maybe they have trunk or treats, or the local churches do things. I'm not sure. So maybe they only have community type events, or maybe so they're not on Google.
Or maybe they're just not, the crawlers didn't hit Google. So, but what I did, I put it in like Maine haunted houses, and it pulled up a list, and then I went through. But make sure that you look at the website and their Facebook. At least those 2, because some of the ones that we looked at weren't in operation, or the last post was like last year, and especially with the hurricane season that we've had, that's been really bad. Especially if you live in like Florida, parts of Texas, wherever this new hurricane is going to land. There might be some of that just canceled because things got blown away or flooded or somehow destroyed.
Right, or there's a possibility that they just don't think that they're going to get the foot traffic that they originally had expected. So, or maybe their supplies aren't able to get to them due to the bad weather and, the roads are blocked or things like that.
But let's say like the things that I've noticed.
I mean, there was a couple of them that the location that they had used for the past 2 years was no longer available, and they had issues with finding a new location. There was one that I researched that ended up canceling for this year because they had funds issues, so they partnered up with another haunted house group and just basically expanded to where, you know, they could do something much bigger and more awesome this year because they had more people to work with. So there's a lot of different situations that could happen. So, I mean, if you're like us, there's certain ones that we enjoy going to. We were in a different location the year before last in a different city. So we got to go to one of the major ones there and take our daughter, and we really enjoyed it. So depending on where we're living at, we tried to go to certain ones to see how they've changed from year to year. And so it just really depends on the location. And you may have traditions with your family that you do, and it just depends, I guess, where you live.
So let's talk about some like current trends that we've noticed. Because I've noticed a lot of trends, especially because I did mostly the East Coast and you started on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's all across or it's just East Coast versus West Coast.
I imagine it would be regional.
But I noticed that like more haunted houses are becoming multiple haunted houses. They're sort of subsectioning, like there'd be the haunted barn, and then there's the haunted town, and then there's the haunted church. And you have to buy like a ticket for
To each one?
or they would have like a group ticket,
Where you can go to each.
and then after that they have like VIP tickets, and then they usually have something else too, like they would have the haunted houses and zombie paintball,
Nice.
and then so you have to buy like you buy the, let's say, the VIP ticket. You get the VIP ticket for all the haunted houses. You get the speed pass, which, you know, in a lot of places have the speed pass option.
Right, where you can skip line. Yeah.
And
That's always nice. I can't do the standing in line thing all day. That my body doesn't allow me to do that. So we always get the skip line.
And you're looking at maybe...
Nobody wants to deal with crazy Susie when she's in pain and has no patience. That's not an option.
And those are usually $10 to $15 is the skip pass.
Yeah.
And then, like, with the zombie paintball, I was noticing it was, like, $5, $10 for, like, it's like a hayride, or sometimes it's a walk. I'm not, you know, different ones, you know, or different areas had different type of things. And then, like, you could buy, like, the initial $5 or $10. So these places, they had the zombie shoot things, and then you buy, like, I think, like, 50 of them. 50 ammo. And then for, like, another $5, you can buy another set of 50 ammo. So, altogether, it turned out to be, like, $15 for most places. But that's, like, completely optional. So you have, like, the 4 to 6 different haunted barn sections, and then you have the zombie thing, and then they have food and refreshments. And one place, this one blew my mind, I guess is really massive, had 15 bonfires. They're advertising 15 bonfires.
I could see how that could be very problematic.
Yeah, I mean, you would obviously have to have somebody to control the situation. Now, I don't know what they mean by bonfires compared to what I know as bonfires, as in, like, really high up wood. Not, I mean, not extremely high, but... Or they mean just a campfire that's just a little bit higher in a pit. So,
Well, you would have to have somebody manning the fires, but what would they do for safety protocols? You know, I mean, you have people bringing their children there, and people are going to want to be right up next to the fires.
I think they were saying you could buy the stuff to make s'mores there and stuff like that.
So they're encouraging people to be messing with the fires. See, that's even more scary right there.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're going to do about that. But, okay, so that brings into fire safety. Okay. If there's going to be fire, don't be an idiot. Is the best way to put it. Fires hurt.
Well, that's the problem. You tell people use common sense. Most people don't have that.
Yeah. What I do a reenactment thing. I've been doing for years. I grew up doing reenactments actually, and so I've been very accustomed to open outdoor fires. So I've seen some stuff. And one time there's this guy. It was a party, and they had a big old bonfire. And he got really, really drunk and decided that he was going to leap over the fire. Well, let's just say he made it about face first into the fire, and we had an ambulance come to the campsite and take him to the burn unit.
Yeah.
I've seen people's houses, I mean, not houses, their tents catch on fire because somebody lit a marshmallow. And if you don't realize, marshmallows
catch fire, yeah.
Really
they're
quick.
Pure sugar.
And I've seen people fling them on accident or on purpose.
Yeah,
And
because the outside catches fire and the inside melts. So if you just flick the stick or whatever that they're on, they could fly off pretty easily.
And I actually grew up. One of my first jobs was actually at a historical site, and we would have open flame, and we would actually have people come up to it, and go, "Is this real?" and stick their hand into the flame, and then go, "Ow, that hurts." And we all sat there and were like, "We could tell you all day, every day, that this is a real fire, but you won't believe us till you stick your hand into it." So, my thing is be conscientious of fire. I just think that that's going to but I think this was in like New Hampshire or somewhere. So one of those like upper northern parts where I think that's of a more common thing in that region.
Right.
To have these type of bonfires. But if you would do something in, let's say, bigger areas with people that never been around fire in their life other than the stove,
Then it would be more problematic.
Yeah.
Well, there was only a few that I saw, maybe two that I saw in California where they had something similar to that, where they had multiple different haunted houses that were different styles, and you could get a VIP pass for all 3 or 4 of them, or you could get a pass to each individual one if you only wanted to go to 1 or 2 of them. Say if you had a very small child that had never been to a haunted house and you just wanted to take them to one of the locations, or if you just, so they could test the waters kind of a thing, because they were all different themes.
Well, I saw a lot of haunted houses that actually put on the bottom, like even on the first page, the landing page, not recommended for certain ages. Mostly like 13. Because I think they're trying to get away from having really small kids coming through. Mm-hmm. And
I think maybe that's why that one had it set up that way, because it's like the first one was kind of mild. Mm-hmm. It wasn't as graphic, and then it got more graphic and more intense as you went through the different houses. So I think it was set up that way. The first one was generally for people that weren't scared, that you couldn't get scared very easily. So it was for people that were maybe starting out in the haunted houses,
Or you're taking your girlfriend, but you don't want her to be completely terrified, You
don't want her crawling up you while you're just going through it.
Yeah.
Or, like our daughter, no matter what we do, we take her to a haunted house. And the bunny man here, he's a big guy. Our daughter leeches onto him when we take her to a haunted house. And I'm evil. I stand in front and I kind of commentate what's going on. So the first person, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a haunted house. The first person, they never target that person. They target who's after them. So
they're looking for the clean one, because they can tell. Because
who's already scared?
I was actually part of a haunted house at one point. A small one, and you purposely aim for the clingers. You don't aim for the person that's standing there going, "Yeah, I'm a big old badass." You're looking for that one, that small skinny chick that's like hugging this guy, just going, "Save me," and you're just like, "There's my target. And that's what you think. And then, so you target that because you're going to get the max scare.
Right. Well, this is what we generally do. I walk first because I trip at everything easily. So I generally walk first. He walks behind me, and our daughter is latched onto him like a leech. So I'm walking through and I'm yammering about the whole time. And I see people in the corners and stuff, and I'm waving at them. She doesn't see me waving at them. Because I see them and they see me, and I'm just yammering about. So they know I'm coming. They hear me talking. And I'm just yak, 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 yak. Yeah, this is really nice scenery. Ooh, look, here's the kitchen. I wonder what they're cooking. I'm just yak, yak, yakking. And our daughter, I hear her behind me going, Mom, shut up. Mom, shut up. They're going to know we're coming. You need to be quiet. She's freaking out. And the people that are in the haunted house are like thinking, yeah, buddy, here they come. I know they're coming. And I point behind me. I'm pointing behind me so they see them. And a couple of times I've had to dodge out of the way because they jump out at her. And I kind of dodge out of their way. She was so mad at me. She's like, Mom, did you point me out? Nope. No, I didn't. And Bunny Man is cracking up.
I'm cracking up. She's yelling at me. This is not funny. It's hilarious. She loves to be scared. She absolutely loves it. Except for clowns. Well, when Annabelle came out, when we took her for her 13th birthday, it was dolls for a while. She could not have dolls around her. So she sort of obsesses about like one thing that really creeps her out. If that one thing, she cannot be around it at all for a good couple months.
Yeah, and she, the last haunted house we took her to, they had this whole section that had the clowns and the whole It setup. And it freaked her out. So when the new It came out, we didn't take her, but her biological dad took her, and she came home. When she opened the front door, she opened it as slowly as any one individual could open a door, because she thought we would be dressed up as clowns or something. I don't know. She thought we were going to pull some kind of prank on her, because we had mentioned a prank that a father had pulled on his daughter when she went and saw it. She opened her bedroom door as slowly as possible. She thought we were going to just rip her a new one, I guess. But we didn't. We were nice. We could have pulled a prank on her. We did it when she watched Annabelle. That's why she thought. We had took her to see Annabelle with a friend of ours. And when she came home, we had hidden one of her ceramic dolls under her blankets in her bed. So when she went to go to bed, she pulled the blankets back.
And the staircase.
And, the ceramic doll was there, and she was just
livid.
Freaked out. She was freaked out for months about that. She just was so angry with us.
But it's usually like, but she likes to be scared, and it's fun taking her. And unfortunately, we can't take her this year, but because of reasons. Other than haunted houses, they always look for that one person. But I've noticed that too. I've noticed that they have like a beginner house, and then they have the more extreme. And now I've also noticed that certain nights in some haunted houses, like usually like a really low, slow night, like Thursday or whatever, they'll have an extreme haunt. That's what they call it, an extreme haunt. And it's touch. Is that the people can touch you. You have to sign a waiver, obviously.
Right, because generally they don't allow that.
Yeah. No,
because some people, if you touch them, their automatic reaction is to punch you.
Yeah, so...
That is mine, unfortunately.
I think that's both of ours.
If a stranger comes up behind me and touches me, unless I know it's the Bunny Man doing it, because he's scared me like that before, and there's a certain way he touches me, my automatic reaction is to punch.
But you've done the same thing. You've come up behind me before, and I've slugged you in the stomach, and then turned around and almost slugged you in the face. So, it's with both of us, we are not people to come up behind.
No, it's a dangerous situation.
Yeah, we're
So I totally
we don't.
understand why, especially considering, you don't know anybody's background with the people that go to these haunted houses. People are in certain backgrounds, if they're soldiers or, if they've had taekwondo or any kind of fighting background, that's going to be their automatic reaction.
and sometimes
if you touch them or try to grab them or something, that's going to be their automatic reaction, is to defend themselves, even though they're in that situation.
Well, sometimes even normal people, let's just say civilians, non-military people, they don't even know about the fight or flight instinct that they have because it's never been triggered before. So sometimes a lot of people do have a flight instinct, which is run away and hide.
Right, but you're in a dark room, so you don't really know if you can run. You don't know where to run because you can't see.
Yeah. So and sometimes they'll just activate that fight instinct, and you won't realize it till it's too late, and somebody's on the ground bleeding.
Right.
So, I mean, but if you're into that extreme haunt, I just wouldn't go because I know myself. I know I would end up really hurting somebody and then feel really horrible afterwards.
Right. And I just wouldn't want to put somebody else or myself in that situation. I would prefer to just go and do the normal thing and
Have fun.
actually we found out something very interesting. Several of these places have a non-active day to where you can go.
Yeah, it's called like it's usually sometimes during the week or like a Friday before, let's say dusk, 6 o'clock, whatever. And then they call it like a matinee.
A matinee, yeah. And you go during the daylight hours, obviously. And it generally starts around like lunchtime hours. And you can go and you pay a minimum fee. It's usually like half the normal surcharge.
Well, it's like 5 to... I've seen some that are as cheap as 5.
Right.
Some as expensive as 11. And the thing is how they advertise it is you go in and there won't be anybody to scare you. The music is shut off, so there's no creepy music playing.
Right.
And you're able just to sort of roam around, and their idea is that they're aiming it for the small wee ones. And, let's say the parent wants to go see the haunt, but they can't find a babysitter, or they just don't want to.
Right.
Leave them by themselves, in custody of somebody else. So they want to see what this haunted house is, or they're just interested in how the haunted house is made up.
Right. So you can go when the lights are on and there's no music or anything playing, and you basically get to see the inner workings of the house. So you get to see how they set everything up with the lights on and everything. So I thought that was really interesting because it's not part of the scene that most people get to see. Unless you're actually working at a haunted house or you have somebody that that's working at it, or you get to help be one of the people to set it up, you often don't get to see that part of the picture. You're seeing it through dark lights, strobe lights, which I absolutely hate.
Well, we'll get into haunted house cliches at the sort of towards the end of this.
I absolutely hate them. But we'll get to that. But I thought this was a really nice, interesting spin to put on things, because if there are people that are wanting to start like a home haunt, this is a really great roadmap for them, for one. And it's an interesting way to get people in on the ground floor to see what all goes into making this haunted house, because there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of factors that have to be figured out. Many, many different people that are in play to make it all work cohesively. And so it's really nice that they have this available for people that can't go. I mean, like I said, the strobe lights are one factor. People that are epileptic or whatever can't go because of the strobe lights. And they're not going to turn it off on one person. So they have this available for people that are still interested in the haunt, but can't go for one reason or another.
Now, I did see some haunts say that if you have some issue and you want to come, they'll try to be, they'll try to help. I just don't see how that's going to happen with everything going, with everybody having some,
Right.
I mean, it's.
Well, there's no way to know for sure if that's going to be a modification that can be made
Yeah.
for each individual person.
And I hate it. I mean, I think this is a really great thing to have for people who either, like, if you're a veteran or something like that, and you do have severe PTSD and you can't be in that, it sort of helps, I think, demystify that concept. And that's what I was going to. Even if you're not a veteran, if you're just somebody who's just scared of them, I think it also helps demystify, because you look at some of the haunts. Some of the most complex haunts are some of the stupidest looking ones in the day. Like a body bag could be literally just some clothes that are taped up in a garbage bag.
Right.
Or it's like the coat in the corner, and you have like a nightlight. And the coat makes, the nightlight, the shadow reflects off the coat, not reflect, but makes a shadow of the coat, and it looks like a monster. Mm-hmm. But then you realize after you wake up or you turn on the light that it's just a coat. There's nothing there but the coat.
Right.
So I think it helps demystify.
Our mind fills in so much. The mind is the most powerful thing we have. Our mind fills in so much.
Well, a great example of that is, what do you consider the bloodiest movie out there?
Probably Jason, but there's no blood in it.
Actually, the one that everybody assumes is the bloodiest is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And there's no blood.
There is no blood in it.
Right.
Because we mentally feel...
Well, we hear the chainsaw, and you think of it as chopping through the body, so you assume that there has to be blood.
Yeah.
There's no blood.
Yeah, it's just... It's really interesting how the mind works, and how... There's a lot of psychology within horror that I don't think a lot of people realize, and that's why there's, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is considered a huge classic.
Right.
Because of the psychological behind it. It's the same with these a good haunted house for me is one that hits that psychological. It's not one, there are so many haunted houses, but trying to figure out which one's a good one is because, your mind needs to fill in stuff.
Yeah, because you only have a certain amount of time. You could go through a very long haunted house and it only takes 25, 30 minutes, which isn't a very long amount of time. You walk through a room in just a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long to walk through a room. And there's so many elements in a room. You could go through the same haunted house 3 times and see different elements.
Well, it was like that haunted house that we were talking about. You remember that one room? There was like a stripper pole, but it was completely empty, and it was like a club. But you expect something to pop out, but nothing popped out.
Right.
You're sitting there going like, there's got to be something here. It's completely empty. There's a stripper pole in the middle. There's some... It looks like a bad stripper club, and and you're just like, there's got to be something here, and nothing was there. And I thought that was one of the more frightening rooms, because my imagination filled in that there was something there, just the way that the lights were.
Right.
You swear you saw somebody in the corner. It's that type of like, but there. So it's amazing how much our minds fill in gaps.
Yeah, the mind is a powerful tool, so that is a very interesting aspect of it. But it is cool that they're having these haunted houses now with all these extra added things. I wish they really had one here, not to my knowledge they don't, but, paintball and...
Zip lines. Some places have zip lines. I don't know how I feel about zip lines. I feel like they're boring, but, it's just... That's the thing.
Different food items and, I've known of trunk or treats and things like that to where they've had hay rides or you go to pumpkin patches and they have hay rides and you could pick a pumpkin and all that kind of stuff. But I've never known of a haunted house plus a hay ride and a pumpkin patch and all that kind of stuff. So it would be cool to find a place that would have a pumpkin patch and a haunted house and all of that combined. That would be like...
Well, I grew up near one that was like that.
Really?
So, but it was on a farm. It was a family-owned farm, and that was their, other than their normal, selling produce at the farmer's market and stuff like that. That was, Halloween basically sold them through to the end, for to the
rest
next
of the
Halloween.
year,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because, I mean, if you can capitalize on it, you can make a lot of money. And a lot of what kills and a lot that will sell a haunted house is how well it's done. Mm-hmm. And, but if you can have like multiple things, that's why I think they're going for the matinee type things now. Because they've hit the scare thing. Now if they could get the people who don't want to go to the haunted house or don't want to be scared or have small kids, that's the next thing. So
Right.
it's all inclusive at that point. And that's what will keep them living longer than, burning quick and then shorting out. Because a lot of people put a lot of money into these I mean, you're looking at, I don't know, starting up. I mean, they're, just little. I was looking at props at one time because we've always been interested in doing a haunted house.
Yeah.
And I was looking at one prop, and it looks goofy. It's a guy that's hooked up to an electric chair, and it looks like he's being electrocuted, and there's a bunch of lights, and the guy jerks forward. Probably everybody's seen it. It's all air powered, and that's about a $2,000 piece alone. That one.
Wow.
So you're looking, if you want realistic stuff, you're looking at a lot of money. So, but I find some of the best haunts not to have the polished look.
Right. The more rustic style.
So it's just like we could talk about some of our favorite things about haunted houses if you want, or where do you want to go next with this? I mean,
some of my favorite things about haunted houses are when they don't necessarily have all the lights off. When they have, when you go into a haunted house and it's just totally dark and you kind of have to feel your way through, and they have like narrow doorways or part of the doorways are covered and you don't really know where you're supposed to go. I hate that.
yeah.
I've been to some haunted houses though to where like they'll have a small light on, but it's not like it'll be like a yellow or a green color. So at least you have direction. I'm fine with
Yeah,
that. But I hate when there's no light whatsoever and they have like this path, but it's not really, it's undefined. You know
Well,
what I mean?
actually, here's a funny story I have for you about that. So, I was.
And then people are yelling at you like, go. And you're like, go where? Because I generally like to be the first person, like I said.
Well, it could be simply done with not just lights, but fluorescent paints. Fluorescent paints. You could just sort of have an arrow that sort of like gives you a clue.
Right.
Because,
With blue lighting, it would attract,
yeah.
yeah.
It could the lighting itself could ruin it, because a lot of times those type of mazes, and what I'm going to go into the story.
Yeah, the maze breaks up the room to where they could use the room. I get it. It's a giant room, and they break up the room to where they could use it more effectively.
Yeah.
I understand
No,
what
no.
they've
But
done.
what I'm saying though, a lot of times if you put a light source in there, it's going to ruin the effect. That you're going to realize that it's plywood or trash bags and rope.
I get that, but how are you supposed to know where to go? Because it's not like they give you any kind
Yeah.
of direction.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You could. That's what I'm saying
like
is you
that.
could simply.
They don't have a guide or anything. They just
Yeah.
kind of go.
Well, what I was saying, that's why you could use fluorescent paint to sort of give an arrow.
The doorway was the same color as the wall, and it was all blacked out. Like the doors, it was probably plywood or something like that with some kind of black tarping over it, and then the door was the same kind of black tarping.
Yeah.
They could have put some kind of neon
Yes.
striping on the door to where you knew, hey, you go in there.
Instead of having people who go in there, like I've been in one where they told you where to go, like you need to turn left. Well, no, I don't want somebody telling me where to go. Obviously, it's a maze, but you just need some sort of indication in a completely
That
black.
this is where the wall breaks up.
Yeah. So okay, so talking about a really really dark maze. It was completely black. It was pitch black. I was with one of my really good friends, and at that time his girlfriend, and we decided to go to this haunted house we've never been to, and we called it the Devil's Bunghole. And because it looked like a place you would go, and it looks like a place you would get robbed at, to be honest. And it was in this like old
Where it was located at?
yeah, where it was located. It was in the industrial part, so we thought we got lost. We didn't know where this was, and we found it. But so I was, and we went in, and another one. It was like one of those ones that cost like $30, and you can't believe you just spent $30 on this one. It was a really bad one. Okay, so it's me, him. We're reenacting buddies. We've seen each other, accidentally naked half the time. It's so we would go, and we got into this maze, and we were old cracking up. Like there was one guy sort of like on top of a mannequin, and we're like, "Get at it, buddy!" And he's like, "Yeah." So we didn't really take it seriously till we got to this maze, and it was pitch black. So we had light, pitch black. Mm-hmm. And number one, if I have a little bit of light, my eyes could adjust really well to the dark, so I could see pretty well in the dark. But there was no light. And number two, my eyes did not adjust at all to the dark because it went from light to dark. Like bam.
Well, I think that's how anybody is.
Yeah.
You have to have some light. I mean,
yeah. And so we were going through, and we were running into each other constantly. And you hear somebody hit the wall, and then somebody else hit the wall, and then we're running into each other. And he's like, "Look, I know you like me, but would you stop trying to fly up my bum?" And we're laughing at each other because there was no way, and we're just like trying to feel around, and that was a really bad example of a really bad maze.
right.
Because and then it turned into people who are way behind us are now coming into this maze, and then people were way ahead of us are now in that maze, also in that maze. So it becomes a bottleneck. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
and
that's why maze haunted houses can be done really well, but most of the times they're done really awful.
Yeah, and at that point, because me and him, we're big, burly guys, we have not, I don't want to say we have short fuses, but there's a point where we're tired of this, and we're like, we want out of here, or we're getting out of here. It was like one of the two. It's like, either we find an exit, or we will make an exit. And then that's when somebody was like, you need to go this way, and you need to go this way. Because I think that you just realized, crap, this was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because this was like, they were saying that this was their peak day. This is the most people they've had at this one location since they've opened. So
There's a right way and there's a wrong way to do it. And that was the absolute wrong way to do it.
because you get people like me and him who are just like, ogre make hole.
This is no good.
So that was that was my experience, and I mean I think I've been to
Well, I had a very similar experience, and I'm half your size, but I was not happy.
yeah
I was like, this, after like 2 minutes of it, I was like, this is old. I'm done.
yeah, and sometimes they drag that maze thing out far too long than what it needs to be. They could simply have it halved. If you're going to make it completely dark, have it like half the size of it, because you're going to create a bottleneck.
Well, if they're going to have it, then they need to do, like you said, not have it pitch dark. Put a blue light in there. Have markings to where people know, hey, I'm going in the right direction. There's going to be an ending to this craziness.
Yeah.
So people don't feel like they're losing their freaking minds,
Well, and you're also dealing with people who I think his girlfriend at the time was claustrophobic on top of it. So not only are we ramming into her and hitting her because she was in front like you like to be, we were smashing her against said wall on top of it. So two big burly guys are running into this wee like 5'3" girl who's, you know, and the lower end of 100 pounds.
5'3" is not that short, but when you're talking about guys that are 6'4", yeah, it's short.
You know, so we're running into her on top of it.
Like I said, Bunny Man is a big guy. He's 6'4", and he's in the 300-pound range, so he's not a little man. And yeah, so
yeah. So I mean, that was just we cracked.
Not somebody you want to be in a confined space when he's stressed.
And I mean, we were,
No.
Of course, we were cracking up afterwards, but during the time, you could feel the stress on everybody.
Right.
You know.
And then you're in a confined space in the dark with a bunch of strangers who are also aggravated and annoyed, and you're just like, you turn into this big gorilla man who just wants to beat the walls down.
Yeah. So, okay, getting back on the good sides, I think the one that we went to that we actually favored, what I like about that one, and I think a lot of it is the mental at the beginning. When you're queuing, because you're usually in line for, depending if you, okay, it leads me into some things that we forgot. So, there are peak nights, which are usually Fridays and Saturdays. Mm-hmm. And then there are slow nights, which are Sundays. Mm-hmm. So, and they have different price, a lot of places have different price ranges for, let's say, Friday, rates. Saturday, and then Sunday.
Yeah. They charge a higher rate on the days they're busier than on days they're not.
Yeah. I think the only exception is the extreme nights. The extreme nights, I think, are like $20 or $30 more.
Wow.
Because, no, I think they don't really want people. They want people to be committed. You know, they don't want somebody just wandering in. You see what I'm trying to say? It's like...
Well, it's more of a risk to them, too. So.
Yeah, and I think it deals with, like, if...
I'm sure they have to carry a special insurance for that.
Well, I'm saying, you know, ones if somebody cracks the nose of one of their actors, you know, so... Or somebody gets a little too touchy. I just don't see the extreme haunts working out in your favor at this point.
Yeah, well.
But if that's what you want to do, I mean, that's great. Because I know a lot of people are getting... I think, you know, with the internet, we're just, with all the stuff that's going on in our world, we're just so desensitized.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the views on it are mixed. You know, there are just as many people that are for it as are against it. So it's just.
I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying I know my limit. But I'm just saying.
Right.
I think the reason why it's so much higher.
Well, I'm not saying we're for it or against it. We're just not one of those people that could do it because I personally would feel like crap if I hurt somebody. So I'm not even going to put myself or someone else in that position. But
anyway, so going back to what I was saying, is that with the queue, the one that we went to, they would play they had sort of a theme, and like the two times I went was Bad Horror Movies Part 1, and then they had the Bad Horror Movies the sequel. So that was sort of the theme of that haunted house. So it has sort of a theme. Mm-hmm. And then at the beginning, so they shot their own sort of like bad horror films.
Yeah.
And we're showing it over, you know, on
on a big projector screen outside as people were standing in line. We didn't stand in line for more than 15 minutes, maybe 20 at the max. I don't think it was that long.
Well, because we went early enough where it was at the beginning of it.
Right. Well, we went at a decent time, but we also paid the extra money to go in the fast lane. But that's because, you know, I get really cranky when I have to stand and wait for a long time, and nobody wants to deal with that. So.
Well, because you have medical issues. It's not because you don't want to be in line. It's literally because you have medical issues. So that was cool. I mean, you know.
But I liked how theirs was broken up. Like, you would go into one building And then you would, part of it was outside, and then you would go in another building, then part was outside, then you would go in another building. So it was nice how everything was kind of broken up. It was like a whole property that they used. So it was interesting. Anyway,
But I mean, I like something that, because I've been to a lot of haunted houses where they don't do anything. You're just literally standing in line, and you have some chick on her phone. Like half of the girls are on their phone, the other ones are berating their boyfriends. Like, I don't want to go, and blah blah blah. You know, they're freaking.
well, they had a concession stand too and a bonfire there. So
No, but I'm saying, like, I'm talking not this place. I'm saying other haunted houses.
Right.
You know, it's just either they have the Devil's Bunghole one. They were blaring, and I like death metal, but they were blaring death metal, so you couldn't even hear yourself think,
right.
and it was genetic death metal, so that's even worse. And it didn't change up, so it was on a loop. So they were blaring that in your ear because here's the speaker on a stand, and here's the cue. You know, you're within like 5 feet of the speaker,
Crazy.
and so your eardrums are, brrr, you know, with this generic death metal, and so that was, and then, but like I'm saying, a lot of times, and I've been in other ones that are more confined, and so you're queuing for an hour. Like one time, I was queuing for an hour and a half in this one place because it was a really big, popular one. I had to go see it because it was supposed to be like the number one in the entire state.
It was awful. Wasn't it?
I didn't care for it. So we were sitting there, and I mean, some of the girls were like freaking out, telling their boyfriends, I really want to go now, after they spent $70 on the tickets, you know, or whatever. And the other ones are on their phone, on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And they were just like, and you're just sitting there, and you're just standing, and you're doing nothing. There's nothing entertaining. There's no, you know, they would have like maybe a guy come around once in a blue moon and try to spook people in the queue, and it was pretty lame. And then another one I went to was actually, you had to wait on the street to get into it, and they actually had several actors who would go, and they would actually interact, and it wouldn't be in a spooky way, as more of a comedical way. They're just trying to get your mind off of, yeah, I haven't even paid yet, and I have to wait for like 45 minutes to get into this place. I'm going to go leave.
Yeah.
They're trying to literally just get your mind that I want to go see this place. So they put some of the actors with the best makeup on, and have the best personalities out there to get your mind off of, yeah, you want to give us your money so you can go through this thing. So, I mean, it's a really mixture of what you can do, you know. But I think you have to have some sort of interaction, not just spooky interaction, but some sort of something that'll take your mind off of.
Yeah. So getting back to the strobe light, I detest strobe lights.
Well, and here's the issue I have with strobe lights. I think that they put them up to, you know, up too high. I think it's too high. You know, if you could have a strobe light that's a little bit slower, it has a better effect.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have an issue with strobe lights because I have cataracts, and so strobe lights, especially the fast ones, they just blind me. You know, it doesn't matter if I look straight at them. It doesn't matter if I walk in the room and that thing's going off. It reflects off my cataracts, and it just blinds me.
Well, I mean, okay, so, you know, talking about fast strobe lights, you know, you've heard the whole Japanese thing that there was that banned Pokemon episode or whatever. It's an urban legend. I think it actually exists, though. But, like, there was a Pokemon episode that they had that premiered in Japan, because it's Japan, and it strobed, like, a really fast strobe on it, and created, like, basically an epidemic of children to have seizures that were not epileptic. They were not epileptic, and then they had seizures. Because they watched this episode, and this one part of this episode, there was a strobe. And so, yeah, sometimes I feel like when I go through those houses, they have them cranked up, you know, to like, I think 1 second or whatever. I don't have epilepsy, but I feel like I'm going to have epilepsy at that point because it screws with your mind. Strobe lights are there to they screw with your senses.
Yeah, they disorientate you. Well, they blind me. They don't have a chance
Well-
to disorientate me. I have to close my eyes because I can't see anything.
Yeah.
And I end up seeing that strobe light for like 10 minutes.
Well, I think a lot of people do. So I've noticed that in some haunted houses they have strobe lights, but they have them like really down pretty far, so they're not all the time. You really don't hear the strobe light shutter noise. When you can hear the strobe light shutter noise going at it really fast, I think that's a huge problem. Because you don't, like I said, you don't know. Somebody might not even know they have epilepsy and then have epilepsy, or have a seizure, and they don't, they've never had seizures in their life before, till they walked into that. So there needs to be some sort of. I think it's just some people are over.
Well, most places do have warnings,
Yeah.
if you're pregnant, don't go in. If you have seizures, don't go in. This,
But I'm saying,
this,
there are some people who don't know that they have these problems.
Right, because
till-
they've never had them in the past. Well, you don't know until that first time. You could be driving down the road and have a seizure and have an accident and not know until the accident. So,
Yeah. So
I mean, that's the way it goes. You don't know until the first time.
some other things that really bother me about. Well, I don't really want to get into. I want to try to do the more good and then bad. Leave the bad to the end. So, or we could do good and then bad. Have a good, bad, good, bad. So we did something good.
Just
bad.
whatever. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. We're talking about it in general, so we don't have to be that organized about it.
So I think a good thing that I've noticed in some places, if you could get your money, if you know straight ahead or they have an ATM, I always say take cash to these places. Always take cash to these haunted houses.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of haunted houses on their website that says cash only.
Yes.
Well, sometimes it really sucks when you go and you don't realize that you need to take cash and they don't have an ATM there. And I understand there's a fee to have ATMs set up and stuff like that, but if you're a big haunted house, I think you should have one. But the more and more we become advanced, you could get a little slider for your iPhone or your Android or
Yeah, I mean, I have an online business, and I have one of those. They're called cubes, where you stick it in your iPhone, or you can get an Apple cube reader for a tablet to where you could slide. They're free.
Yeah.
They're absolutely 100% free. It doesn't cost anything.
But the reason why I say bring cash to any of these is because of the amount of breaches we've had.
Right. Yeah.
know-
it's just safer to do it that way.
You never know if that one ATM has been hinked with, fooled around with. So just take cash with you. I always try to take at least 100, with me, and it all depends on how many are going.
I'm sorry. It is a cube. It's called the Square Reader. But with that, they can open up a free account, scan the card. They can show you what the point of sale is. They can print a receipt or email you a receipt. But that, I mean, it takes time. It takes longer than, say, with the one that plugs into your phone. But I think the one that they get that is actually adaptable to, say, a tablet or whatever, it does cost. But hey, if you're going to be doing all of these sales for a haunted house, you're going to get your money back like more than threefolds
Yeah.
within the first 2 or 3
But
transactions.
But a lot of haunted houses too have where you can buy the tickets pre-sale, and sometimes they're $5 less or whatnot.
Right, you can buy them online and print them off and just come in and be like, here's
The only downfall of that one is there's just some sort of surcharge, but you pay for that even at the gate with sometimes like you could pay $15, but it's $20 at the door, but there's a $3 surcharge to go with that $15.
Right.
So it's really up in the air. But a lot of times when I go to horror houses or haunted houses, is split of the moment type thing. I don't really plan out it's like some days, a couple times we were like, well, what do you want to do tonight? I'm like, let's go to haunted house. And I got paid or whatever that day, and we're just like, let's go. So we're not going to sit there and because a lot of times you have to do it 2 or 3 days before you go.
Yeah. So we just decide which one we're going to go to at that point and leave.
Yeah.
We go by the bank and get money out. We don't do cards there.
And then we always bring a extra,
Yeah.
because our daughter, love her to death, does love to go, I want this, or I'm hungry, so she, so we usually try to get her something and then.
Yeah, always got to be prepared when you have kiddos, so it's always a good idea to have a little bit extra just in case.
And who knows, you might be hungry. You never know. But usually when we do haunted houses, we try to make it an event. So usually we'll go out to eat prior to it. A lot of times I would text you, at lunch or whatever, go, you want to go? So we could sort of, get ready when I'm ready, when I come home.
Right.
We need to do this, but we could go out to eat. So that's the big thing.
Yeah.
It's just trying to coordinate and make sure that we're not hurting ourselves in the long run to go, because we like to make it a day. We don't go out to eat that much at all.
No.
So, all right. Another thing I totally dislike is really cheap jump scares.
Well, the cheap jump scares are just a part of it.
Yeah, but it goes into my whole cliche thing that it's just, it gets so tired of every haunted house. And I think a lot of it is the cheap jump scares from the same characters. How many times do I have to see fat Jason, skinny Jason, short Jason?
You don't like the cheap jump scares, but when they do it to Anne-Marie,
I crack up. Yeah.
When they do it to your kid, you find it totally, just hilarious.
Because I don't get anything out of it, So maybe that's it. I don't get anything out of it. But I think my biggest on top of it is just I am so tired of seeing the same Freddy, Jason, Leatherface.
Yeah.
Everybody has to have a chainsaw. Everybody has to. I want some originality, and especially when I'm spending $30, $40, $50 to these haunted houses.
You just want a haunted house that's based on really crappy movies,
No, I don't. I want something different. I thought
it would be different.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the best haunted houses, actually,
You want to go to a haunted house where Torgo greets you?
Yeah.
The master has been waiting for you.
No, I think one of the best haunted houses I went to, it's in Pennsylvania. It's actually a really big one. I think it's Scare House or something like that. It's near Pittsburgh, and the year that I went, they did a dark version of Grimm's Fairy Tales.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they had evil Pinocchio and slaughtery Pinocchio. So
that's a really cool aspect.
So that's what I'm saying. Originality. Just it was well executed.
Well, it's not really originality. It's somebody else's idea, but
yeah, but it's not Jason and Freddy, and
it's not ideas that have just been overdone.
Yeah, I even think one way I would do it is look at the folklore within our area. Or just folklore in general. And take from there. because a lot of the folklore, my the the urban legend that I take my name from is actually something that happened in Virginia. The Bunny Man urban legend was a guy, the Bunny Man tunnels, and there was a guy dressed up as a bunny man, and a bunny, and he would come at people with a hatchet. So, and there's a lot of theories on what happened. Because the great thing about folklore or urban legends is that it has some sort of basis in reality. But then each generation, or it grows bigger and bigger. So at first the possibility of the Bunny Man was it was some guy who they were the city was trying to impose some sort of like tax, or I think they were trying to take away part of his property to grow some a road or something. So, and he was very upset. He was a cranky old man, so he went out there with a hatchet, to scare off people who came onto his property. So that may be the beginning of it. It was some crotchety old man who didn't want people on his property, so he came at them at night with a hatchet.
He just so happened to be comfortable in a bunny suit or something.
Well, it might have been like the branches may have looked like he had bunny ears, or just because of the name of the bunny tunnels. And then progressing to, there was the insane asylum guy. He was an escapee who lived there and killed bunnies and was dressed in a bunny suit. Because we all know when you escape insane asylums, they give out bunny suits and hatchets. And then he lived off of bunnies, and he had corpses of the bunnies in the trees. That's the modern day urban legend. And then the thing about that one is now though those tunnels are said to be haunted with this bunny man who, if you blink your lights like 3 times, he'll come charging at you with a hatchet. So, what I'm saying, it's a progressive thing, but urban legends is somebody that everybody sort of knows, so you can scare people easier with an urban legend, let's say.
I don't think today's generation really knows what urban legends are.
Or based off creepypastas. Today's urban legends are creepypastas. Slender Man.
Yeah, they know about Slender Man, I would say.
Jeff the Killer. Things like those. Those are today's modern urban legends. So, that's what I'm saying about the originality. Compared to 80s horror slashers that we all are sick and tired of.
Yeah.
Concession stands. A lot of places, the foods are really good. They usually have a good variety of different stuff. Funnel cakes and stuff like that.
And to me, I think that's kind of strange because when I was growing up, they didn't have stuff like that at haunted houses.
But they've gotten so much bigger.
I think it's cool that they offer that, but they didn't have that stuff when I was growing up.
Well, they didn't have it because haunted houses, we just grew up at the end of the Satanic Panic. We really did. We grew up at the end of the Satanic Panic. So, haunted houses when we were kids were still looked at satanic. At least in my area it was. You don't, good people don't do that type thing. So they weren't as big and profitable as they are now.
Yeah.
We're talking about, there's one that is in, I think, Delaware, New Hampshire, or it's 2 in Maryland, 1 in Rhode Island. Haunted, and they're all 3 of these haunted houses are owned by the same company. So we're talking about now we're becoming to the corporation side of haunted houses. It's grown that big where you can have one company can do multiple houses in different locations and incorporate it. So, we're seeing a total change in the concept of haunted houses. So I thought that was really interesting too. You know, Knoxbury Farms has in California has that, you know, huge haunted house thing, and then they started that whole VR, which, you know, now a lot of haunted houses are doing too. You know, either they have the paintball or the zip line or the VR. I actually saw one haunted house that it was more of a play. It wasn't a haunted house; it was a play. It's a scare play, as they basically put it. But it was sort of like going back to the old films, you know, the old William Castle films with VR, but somebody's actually going to touch you or something. You know, like there's going to be scare. You know, the old.
I want to open a haunted restaurant where, you know, all the waiters are dressed up and all the menu is geared toward stuff that you only eat in the fall, but all the menu items have like the names are named after like either horror films or, you know, some kind of weird slasher something. I don't know. I'll have to think on that to come up with some kind of weird goofy names.
Torgo's Manos Burgers.
Torgos. Burgos.
Torgos Burgos.
Something goofy. It has to be goofy. It can't sound normal. It has to be weird.
Yeah.
With lumpy tots. With knee knocker tots. Something. See, it has to be weird, you know. And then if a customer comes in a costume, they get like a free dessert or something, you know.
The master's dessert. Served to you by Torgo. I wouldn't mind doing a haunted house at Christmas.
See, that's the thing. I love haunted Christmases. That's my favorite.
So okay, so we've sort of talked about the cliches. Okay, so here's another thing I really don't like about haunted houses is that the whole group thing. I want to go in with my little group, okay? Like, we usually take you, our daughter, maybe a few friends. Or if it's not you and me, it used to be in the past, me and a few friends. Mm-hmm. And so we would have a group of, like, let's say 5.
At the most.
Yeah, at the most. You know, and we would want to go in as a group. Well, what's happened before...
they send it like a group of 10 or 15.
And they'll split your group. You know, that's happened to me in the past, is where the group that you come in with, they'll split up. You know, and then so you're stuck with like this group of 10 to 15 people you don't know. Mm-hmm. And then you have to do this whole like hand on shoulder thing. You know, like you put your hand on the person in front of you. Mm-hmm. And then that, and you know, it's all down the, and you're supposed to make contact.
I don't want people I don't know touching me.
Yeah.
I don't really like people I know touching me, much less people I don't know. Ugh.
Yeah, and then so you're doing this hand-on thing, and then the worst thing is I always go in the back because just the way they split us up, and they do it on purpose. And I know what they're doing. They're trying to put all the girls up front because that's the easy scares. So that's who they're going to, you know, that's who the haunters are going to jump out at, is these chicks, these clean chicks, and they always have to have them next to their boyfriends. But they look at 3 big, burly guys and they're like, yeah, no, you guys have to be separated because reasons. You know, so you're going in with this group and you're like, you could just, I just always feel like this was a bad mistake at that point, because they should tell you from the get-go, you will be split up into groups, you will be having to touch somebody, somebody's going to be touching you. They really should say that somewhere. I don't, maybe that's just me being neurotic at some point. I don't want to go into a place
But we're not people, so
Yeah.
we don't like people. I hate to say that.
But okay, so they always jump. The scarer will scare the girls in front, and then you go by and you're seeing the haunter going, "Hey, what's up?" Lighting a bloody cigarette, going, "Hey," and you're like, "Hey, wasted $50." And you're doing that the entire time. So you're never seeing the scare. You're always seeing like the aftermath of the guy walking back. And you're like, well, that was lame. Or he'll do he has the big scare at the front, "Ugh," and then you come by and he's like, and you're like,
Boo.
yeah. So it's like, I really don't like those group ones. They just really.
Or you have somebody jump out at you and you're 2 seconds faster than them and they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've actually had a scare run into me because I was like wearing black or something like that, and he was like, "Ugh," and he tries to jump and he goes, I just feel him. He's like, and I'm like, "Hi," and he was like, "Ugh." So,
Okay then.
it just, that was funny. We had a moment there, but just, and ones that had narrators. I rather have a tape. Like, have you ever been in one of those ones that have like a theme? So they have a narrator who's supposed to like guide you through.
Yes.
Okay, and they always have the same spiel, and they have the same spiel because they're getting tired of it. You can tell in their face they're so sick and tired of saying this. And they don't care anymore.
They're like a museum tour narrator. And back in the 1950s.
Well, I usually get the guy who's like, well, here you'll see that the ghost here, and you're like, all right, I didn't catch half of that, but and he's always talking to like 3 people. Like, he doesn't project. He's just like talking to like 3 people, and those 3 people are like, "Oh God, I'm so scared." And you're sitting there, "Can you speak up?" So you don't know what's going on, and then, like I said, I'm always the one in the back, and it just, that bothers me. But you could tell the guy doesn't care. The one I went to is the one that we lived in. I actually went with my mom to the one in the big city that I used to live in. That was the really expensive, like multiple one. Mm-hmm. They had this. They called it a ghost breach. And at one point, the guy was like, the whole thing was that this ghost. It was supposed to be, there's this room, there's these ghosts, and you can watch it. You can watch the ghosts interact, but they can't see you. So, okay, so you're behind this plexiglass window. It's a great illusion concept, And then the ghosts were used the old mirror technique, like projected. So they weren't actors. They were actually they look like ghosts. And at one point, the ghost comes and attacks the mirror that you're supposed to be behind. And the guy was like, "Okay, everybody turn around and let's run." I turned around and go, "I don't run. I'll walk really fast. I don't run." But I mean, that's great to keep up that concept. But after that point, it lost everything. It lost the momentum. That one scene, lost the momentum for the rest of it. Because at no other point did it follow that concept. And the entire group didn't run. No one ran in that group. We're all just sort of like, okay. And you can still tell the guy who was leading the group was just like, all right, just another group like this. Like he was getting frustrated.
Unless there's a man-eating animal after me, I'm not running.
Yeah. But I mean, how interactive are you going to... I just want to go. I want to enjoy the haunt. I want to be with the group that I'm with. And that's it. I don't want to, I don't want somebody telling me... If you're going to have like a backstory, you should have a video in the queue telling you about the backstory. Some of the best ones are that way. They have like some guy, some actor who is at the haunt or whatever. He's the big wig. You see him in all the promos, and he's like, "I'm the Mad Professor. Welcome to my, my lab has, I don't know what happened one day. This, like, if you have that video, everybody can understand what's going on. You can get into the mindset, and you can have fun. You don't need to have. I don't feel like you need navigating people in there either. I think it just takes a lot of the fun out. And I think those have become cliche too, because when I went out, the paranormal movies were a big thing. So everybody was doing some sort of paranormal activity.
Which I don't find interesting at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are like, and I think that's what I'm tired of, the cliche type things too. It's just everybody has to hit what's ever popular in how many haunted houses are we going to see with Pennywises in it this year?
Well, I imagine several.
Because that's the big thing. I don't know. It's just haunted houses. I love them. I just want more. That's my biggest downfall about haunted houses. But I think that we just surround ourselves with horror all the time. That's what we watch. That's those are us. That's us.
We have high standards. We're very picky.
Okay, so here's my suggestions. I think we've run ourselves out what we like and don't like about haunted houses. I think the best haunted houses. I think even if you're not into haunted houses, I think you should support your local haunts. Like if there's a guy who puts up haunted house stuff and asking for donations, because that's becoming a really big thing too, is these home haunts. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they're not asking for money to supply them with the home haunt. They're asking money to help Shriner kids or.
Right, there was one in California that was just taking donations to help out one of the local food banks. If there's a local house haunt that's doing something just to improve their community, I would go out and help out those guys. I mean, they're not looking for any kind of monies. They're looking to just try to further their community.
Yeah, and it's the same with on the East Coast. I saw a lot of the volunteer fire departments do similar things. There's a lot of pumpkin patches opening up. So take the kids out to there. It's just we're really big into supporting our own community before. A lot of these haunted houses are, the really expensive ones with the multiple haunts are they're corporate haunted houses. Now, there are a lot of, like, I call them cardboard sign haunted houses. We had several in our community that have just popped up recently, and it's like the haunted house at the next right, and it's just a little sign, on the stop sign.
Right. So there's not much advertising. It's just a local haunt.
And I was talking to one lady, and I told her to get a hold of me. Maybe next year I'll see if I can get a hold of her. And I said, hey, I don't even know if they're doing it this year or not. But she, me and my daughter went to one last year, and we were like, yeah, we really would like to help. I'm a designer. I have ideas. Just here's my card. Just hit me up sometime. And she never did. And I haven't seen anything from them, any activity online. So I don't know if they just closed or not. But we supported this haunted trail thing. And my idea was to help, not come in and go, I know what to do. I'm just saying, she was like, because she was asking, because we went towards the end of the haunting season. She was asking where we're from. And we said, well, we're local. And she was like, oh, that's cool. And she's like, well, if you have any, because the entrance and the exit were the same place, it wrapped around. And she was like, if you have any ideas, just tell me. Because we got into a long conversation with her at the waiting gate. And we're like, yeah, definitely. Because our daughter was interested in volunteering to a haunted house. Mm-hmm. And so, but I mean, support the local ones. And a lot of times, a lot of those places are looking for people to come up with ideas.
Right. Even the bigger haunts that I seen in California, they were looking for they were taking volunteers. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good experience.
Well, I mean, even if you're into like, maybe, I mean, some places are actually paid. You're a paid actor or you're a paid makeup artist. But a lot of the smaller ones, you'd be like, yeah, I'm interested in makeup. I'm trying to break into the craft. I have a basis, but I'm not a professional. And a lot of times those places will go, yeah, we need somebody like you.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to at least get your name in the local community about it, or at least have experience. And then, as a horror community, I think that's one thing we can do, is try to help compared to, instead of people trying to scare us, why don't we try to help scare other people? So I think that's what I want to do. I want to scare other people. I don't want to be scared because I know I'm going to be I'm a hard person to scare.
Right.
So I think we've really are done with this thing. We have talked for about an hour and almost 22 minutes.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to say?
I don't think so.
Well, I hope you guys have a really good Halloween experience with the haunted houses. If you tell us what you guys like and dislike down below.
And if you found any good haunted houses in your area, we would like to hear about it. So,
or if you're a haunted house yourself.
Yes.
Especially if you're a home haunt. Okay, so like we said, we wanted to do the list. Okay, so I've sort of gone. I'd rather just do home haunts or local, haunts type thing. If you guys give us a chance, and we might run that, in a separate video.
Yeah. So if you guys have a haunted house that you would like us to mention on our channel, just give us a shout out, and we would be glad to mention that on our channel so our viewers know about it.
Yeah, and if you guys are part of any sort of charity, definitely mention that. And part of the haunted house thing, it's just tell us how much you're charging and if it's cash or card, and the location and the name of it,
and the dates
and
that you're open,
and the times.
Just the basic information.
The basic, yeah. And you can email us. I'll put the email down the bottom.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll scare you later.
Yep. Bye.